Hello guys, today I'm going to do a video on FORSPOKEN with the RTX 4090. We're going to be starting it off at 4K with the max preset. So jumping into the settings and then display, playing the game at 4K. The max FPS is 120 in this game. You can't really increase it. It's either 30, 60 or 120. Doesn't go above that. VSync is disabled, but FPS is 120 anyway, so we might hit that at 440p. And then for graphics, we're playing the game at the max preset, which is ultra high. No DLSS and no FSR, and ray tracing is also disabled for now, but I'll enable it as we go through. So yeah, let's jump into it and see how we do. Alright, we're finally out of the intro area, and look at the FPS, 65. This scene looks pretty good actually, the lighting looks really nice, and the graphics look pretty good as well. Alright, VRAM is slowly climbing up to 17 gigs pretty much almost. I think it was at, what was it, like 13 gigs before, or maybe 14 gigs before. So slowly going up as we go through the area. The game was stuttering a little bit at the start, but that has gone away now and the game's running pretty smoothly. FPS is pretty atrocious though at 60 FPS with the 4090, but maybe it will get patched out in a couple of months and they'll optimize it better. Oh my god, 50 FPS, 56 FPS here!
What do you mean?
Oh my god, that's not good. Already falling into the 50s. But again, we are at the max settings, so I guess we could just lower the settings a little bit and be fine. At least the game's not stuttering, you know? Some games just stutter like crazy and it's unplayable regardless of your settings, but this is somewhat running well. FPS wise, not so well, but we kind of saw that one coming with the spec sheet. More fighting. Look at that, 52 FPS, 49 FPS. This is insane. 48 FPS was the lowest. Alright, let's keep playing for a little bit. Wow, 49 FPS in this area consistently. It's not even like the effects, it's just walking through here, we're getting 49 FPS.
Yeah, like what happened here?
47 FPS. Okay, yeah, I'll play for a little bit longer with these settings, and then I'm going to go ahead and enable ray tracing. And after that, we can go ahead and play at 1440p and see what we can get. Hopefully we can get a consistent 120 at 1440p. This card is really a 4K like 120 card, but this game is just bringing to its knees. I mean, falling below 60 quite easily. But we'll keep going for a little bit. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna... Since this area is so intensive, I might actually stick around here instead of playing through. Alright, so before I do anything else, I'm gonna enable DLSS. We're gonna use the quality preset. And after this, we'll do RT. So, with DLSS at the quality, the game does look quite good. I mean, at 4K it's kind of expected. FPS is sitting in the 70s and almost the 80s now, which is still pretty low for a 4090 at 4K, but it's not as bad as getting like 48 FPS instead, you know, so it's above 60, so okay, I guess it is playable. I don't even know anymore. Let's get into a fight with this little bear. FPS is falling almost into the 60s, lowest FPS was around 64. So not too bad, but not the best either still. But the good thing about 4K and DLSS is that we can actually enable around balance the performance mode and still have a good looking game that looks very close to native 4K, and FPS should be far higher. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and reload the save and use a different DLSS mode and come back when that's done. I do gotta say, the loading times are actually incredibly quick. It takes like a second or two just to load the game. It's insanely quick. Alright, now using balanced DLSS, what are we getting? Okay, we're getting 80 FPS now instead of what, 75? Oh, no, still falling into the 70s. Shoot this little dude. We can hold 70 FPS now quite easily. Before at quality we were getting around 62 FPS, 63 FPS. So it's actually doing quite well. And the quality looks unchanged from what we had at the quality preset, or native 4K actually. So, oh, 63 FPS anyway at times. Alright, here we are with RT enabled, and FPS is sitting in the high 40s, so not too different from what we had before, maybe slightly lower, but yeah, it looks pretty good. But FPS is pretty atrocious. It's kind of feeling laggy at this point. 40 FPS on a keyboard and mouse feels pretty atrocious. But you know what, this is everything at max settings, so I guess it's kind of expected. Our lowest FPS was around 40. So almost falling into the 30s with a 4090 at 4K, which is not what I thought was going to happen in 2023 anyway. Maybe in 6 years time, but not now. And I'm gonna go ahead and enable DLSS one last time. Gonna use the performance mode this time. Hopefully we can hold 60 FPS with RT enabled, but I guess we'll see in a sec. Okay, here we go. With performance DLSS with RT enabled, we're getting almost 80 FPS at this point, but looking this way should drop our FPS down. Yes, it does. Shooting these bears. Okay, we can hold 60 FPS or 70 FPS. That's pretty good. So you can play with RT enabled at 4K max settings. You're just gonna need DLSS to back it up, or it's gonna be very unplayable. You can fall into the 30s and the low 40s even, so yeah, it's not really recommended. And after a quick restart, we're playing the game at 440p at the ultra high settings, no RT and no DLSS. And as you can see, FPS is doing a little bit better. It feels like around the balanced DLSS mode at 4K. FPS is sitting in the 70s and 80s, which is pretty bad, I would say, to be honest, for a card like this. We can jump into the settings one more time, and then display. Playing them at 440p, and the graphics are at ultra high. No DLSS and no ray tracing. So yeah, FPS is sitting in the 80s. This area is very intensive with all the foliage, obviously, that's why I'm hanging around here. But still, I was expecting at least 120 FPS. You know, the 4090 should be able to get 120 FPS at 440p. Now, it does make more sense that the recommended specs at 440p was a 3070 and that was at 30 FPS. But come on, 70 FPS with a 4090, this seems like something is wrong, to be honest. But I guess we'll see as we go. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to go ahead and lower the settings a little bit, because maybe the ultra high is just super demanding. And I'm going to go ahead and bring it down to the high preset. And it's going to restart the game and come back. I mean, FPS is obviously doing better. We are getting almost 100 FPS now, and GPU is sitting at 90%. So we have like around a 10% headroom left over on the GPU side. So we can get, I guess, 110 FPS around there. Which is a lot better, because the quality looks pretty much unchanged at high settings versus the ultra high settings. So again, like I said before, I think it's best to go with the high preset instead of the ultra high preset, as you're losing a lot of FPS for very little, I guess, quality gain. FPS is down in the 80s right here, but GPU is getting heavily bottlenecked, sitting at 80% usage. So with a faster CPU, you will be able to get around 90 to 110 FPS with this. But this video is about the max settings, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it back up, and we can continue to the level. I can't wait to see the comments on this game. People are going to be flaming completely. I can already see it. I can use Alt to lock on. This is a, I guess, a mini boss fight. Okay, with DLSS enabled, we are getting bottlenecked again. Nope, there we go. FPS is going back up to the 90s now from like the 70s, is where it was before. FPS is pretty inconsistent though, I gotta say. It does fall into the 70s and 80s quite often. And the quality looks a bit worse than native 440p. It looks very close to an aggressive TAA. So slightly blurry, but not too bad after all. FPS doesn't really move too much in this game, it seems like, with my setup anyway. Pretty much goes from the 70s up to the 90s, but it's very inconsistent. And with balanced DLSS at 440p ultra high settings with RT enabled, FPS is still in the 90s, but it will be very inconsistent. Will fall into the 70s, I'm guessing again. Yeah, there we go. Just doesn't really move too much, to be honest. It could be bugged. It's also a CPU bottleneck as well, keep that in mind. Alright, in this area here, GPU sitting in the 70% usage, so FPS should be up in the 100s quite easily. And the quality at balanced DLSS looks very similar to the quality preset. Not too different, but the grass, in my opinion, doesn't really look the best. Alright, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys, I guess, today with the RTX 3080 video in Forsaken. See you guys there.